Hello everyone, welcome to Club Extra here on Club at 22, the Rangers podcast. Club Extra is different from our usual format where I bring a special guest on and we stick to pretty much a specific topic all about Rangers one way or another. I am Scott Carney and joining me to discuss the topic of Clement, the tactics, is Heart and Hands. I always don't know what to tell you. Tactics talk guy, Adam Thornton. Adam, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you? It's good to be here.
Yes, I'm good, mate. I'm over the fact that you've knocked me back multiple times to come on my podcast, mate. But busy schedules and all that.
Do you know
No,
what I've
it's
just realised it is? I really don't like being a guest on StreamYard. I keep trying to look and say, right, what's the comments and who's this and who's that? I'm too used to doing it myself, so that may be what it is. But happy
we
to be here.
we don't always go live. It's usually only a Friday that we'll do live, but just for that exact reason, without being arty farty and people thinking, Scott, what are you talking about? There's a different element to it when it's just two
Yeah,
people sitting having a conversation. If you know what I mean, when there's
definitely.
comments and stuff coming in, you can. It's not. It's just a completely different
It
show.
is.
If that makes
Aye,
sense.
no, definitely.
So yeah, Adam is joining me because he's a bit of a tactics guy. And the last time Adam was on with me, we had a conversation of what we expected under Clement, and I think it's a long overdue now that we've seen so many games under Clement. He's got plenty under his belt that we kind of revisit the subject and see if there's any surprises, if Adam was right, if the thoughts were right, yada yada, all the kind of usual stuff. So I say last time we were just after the appointment of Clement, Adam, and we were having a kind of educated stab in the dark, probably for you is the correct term to
Yeah.
use, about what to expect when Clement took over. But before we get into that, or should I say before I let you talk about tactics uh, and the changes or whatever else that he's made, what have you made of Clement so far, just kind of generally overall?
I was going to go into a full office reference and say that the man or the boss there, but I, I've been surprised. I can't remember what I said yesterday, and I talked that much shite that I don't know what I said when I came on the last time. So I might have been bang on, I might not have been. I don't know, but um, I've been really surprised. I did think, you know what it's like. See, when everything's going terribly, the world, especially as a Rangers fan, everybody thinks everything is just the worst ever. Quite clearly, players there that either were being used incorrectly, in my opinion, or were low in confidence, or were still settling in, all those sort of things. So you like to think when a new manager is coming in that he's going to get a bit more out of some players that are there, because some of these players individually were not as bad as they were playing, and also not as bad as we made out. We like to catastrophize everything. That being said, I don't think I would have expected where we are right now. Um, Particularly if you'd asked me, I guess, after that night in Limassol, whether we thought we would be where we are in terms of Europe. So I think that's a big bonus. Obviously, winning the cup and the way that we won it as well, I think was really impressive. It wasn't just going out and dominating and getting an early goal and winning it. It was hard fought, and I think that's been a theme of it. You can see the togetherness with the players again today. They're referencing lots of things that the manager is telling them, and to me, that shows their confidence in the manager, because other managers, they'll say, "Oh yeah, no, the manager's great," and that's it, and they don't really go into too much detail. But now they're saying, "No, he's telling us to do this, and we really like that, and he's changed this, and he's changed that, and he's asking us to do this when we don't have the ball, and that when we have the ball." So all those little things that come out, people, I think, when they're more confident, naturally want to share what they're doing, and when they're doing well. So I think that you can sort of see things there, from that side, that are really positive. In terms of him himself, I think very, very impressive. Doesn't get himself drawn into anything. We can sometimes, I'm sitting in those press conferences and someone asks a question about going top of the league, or you must be pleased with this, and I'm like, he's not going to answer this. You know, he's not going to answer it, and it's just one. It's not even one game at a time. It's literally seems to be one training session at a time. Do your best in that and move on, which I really like. We've all done that, looking at the fixture list and going, we'll definitely get 21 points out of these next seven, and then it falls flat on its face. So I like the whole one day at a time mantra. I like the way he puts himself across quite clearly, mega big on mentality and character and all those sort of things. And I think you can see all of that coming out. That's before we even get to obviously the what's happening on the pitch.
I'm the same. I've been probably surprised at how impressed I've been by him, especially when the way he handles himself and the way that he talks. I like he I don't think he thinks about his one-liners that he says, but when he does say them, they kind of hit you, if that makes sense. You're like, oh, brilliant, that's excellent, that's exactly what I want. Especially the one about momentum. He's like, I don't want to keep building momentum because that means something has to stop. And I was like, oh,
Yeah,
fill that up into me. That is fantastic. That's what I want to be hearing a Rangers.
definitely.
And it's long overdue that we probably had somebody like that. That it's not, there is no end target, if that makes sense. The target is to win everything, and that's the way he's going to go. But the mode that he's entering, obviously the way the players, as you rightly say, that they're not open. I wouldn't say they're fully open, but they're
No,
not scared to discuss what the manager's been telling them. And as well as the manager looking at it's only one game at a time, 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 and it'll all. And he said, I think it was in the last 3 games of the seasons when I actually look at the table, and I was like, "Oh, that's good, that's good.
yeah.
I like that." Obviously, as fans, we do that. You're right. We look at fixtures and think, "Oh, we could get 21 points there, or we should win that. We should win that." When I suppose it's just the way it is being a Rangers fan. But I think he's took
Also,
to the job
like,
very well.
to be fair, I don't believe for 1 second that they're not looking at it and they're not talking about it
Of
inside
course.
inside the club. But the most important thing is showing how focused you are, I think. So I don't think they'll dwell on it. But yeah, when you're, particularly when it's the first title race, since 2011, or it's looking like the first title race since 2011, there's going to be that extra edge to it, and they're going to keep getting these questions, and they'll just keep batting them away. But yeah, I think it's a united front in public, which is ideal.
It is ideal. It's music to the ears after Bale's nonsense. It
Yeah.
really is. It's music to the ears. If you can, I know you just mentioned, if you can remember that far back when we had this conversation, we had discussed Clement at his previous 2 clubs and what you maybe expected coming into Rangers. Do you think he's fully implemented his philosophy onto the team as of yet, or is he pretty much working with the tools that he's got at his disposal just now?
Um, Again, maybe to paraphrase him, he'll say it's never fully complete, and he wants to keep improving on
Mm-hmm.
that. I would say from what I watched for Monaco and Bruges, it's not far away. Um, I think we spoke about the fullbacks maybe being a little bit deeper, the wingers being more aggressive than we had previously. We spoke about maybe having, I remember we spoke about having someone on one side who would cut in a little bit, and then someone on the other side who would be up and down the wing. So I think you can see Sima, and then it was Cantwell, and it's now McCausland. I think you can see that partnership. That was similar to what he had at Monaco, so I can see that there. The striker situation is probably the one that's maybe not been as easy to identify because he never really had a Cantwell and Dessers or a Cantwell and Silva combination. It was probably more of a Silva and Dessers towards the end at Monaco. So that might be something that we see. But other than that, I think so. Aggressive off the ball, guarding against transitions. We're starting to see some patterns of play. The goal I think I really like. One of my favourite goals I think so far has been the one that Sima scored against Hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Because they baited the team. They baited Hearts, Tavernier, Goldson, McCausland, and our defensive third frees up Tavernier to drive forward, and he plays that pass through to Sima. I think that's clearly rehearsed. That's a pattern of play. I think he said that in a press conference. You can see these things coming out that I think have been there. In terms of where it's at, I don't think it's fully there yet. I think the midfield needs a bit of work. And by that, I guess I mean you couldn't really pick who the best two are at the minute. You pick John Lundstrom in there, that's fine. Everybody loves Dujon Sterling, and everybody wants him to play. For me, him and him and Lundstrom are competing for one of those midfield roles, just because of
Yeah.
the type of player that they are, the type of profile that they are. Tomorrow night, for example, we probably don't need both of them playing in the same game. Away in Parkhead, away in Betis, etc. Completely understand it. So they're probably competing for one. I think we've seen that other slot. You can sort of see what he wants to do. He said Raskin in there. He said Lawrence in there. He said Dowell in there. You can see what he wants. He wants somebody who ideally is left-footed, I guess. Somebody who can get forward, somebody that can create from deep. It looks like Diamandi, I think, from everything that he said, it looks like that will possibly be where he plays. So that'd be quite interesting. But I think that's the bit, that middle two at the minute, for me, is the bit that he's maybe not 100% delighted with. And then I guess maybe the striker as well. I mean, Silva's coming in and he's doing quite well, but I think he would probably want more goals up there. and maybe more of a rounded player than Dessers up there, I think, as well. So yeah, I would say if you were asking me where we think we need to improve, I think it will probably be that centre forward role, and then just getting the balance right in defensive midfield. But the good thing is everybody was scratching their heads about Diomande coming in, and now you look at it and you think, well, Raskin's still getting back to fitness. Hasn't been that impressive this season overall. Jack's away in the summer, we think. Lawrence is injured. Dowell gets injured a fair bit. Maybe there was a need for a central midfielder in there, and if he thinks that bringing someone in there can create better quality chances for our strikers to score, then maybe that makes more sense overall than just bringing in Shankland and asking him to score 30 goals on his own. So there may be a bit of wisdom there, but I would say, yeah, I'd say centre midfield and striker for me are the ones that are maybe not quite there yet. Been really, really pleased with the wingers that have came in overall, and I think that makeup there, like I said, is probably similar to what he's had before.
I think, again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that he expects Diomande to play, I think it's when Cantwell and Silva are playing together as well, particularly, he likes Cantwell to be quite close to him quite a lot of the time, not too far away from each other.
Yep.
And if there's going to be and there's not really taking anything away from Raskin, because that's the kind of player that he is. He's more kind of box to box than he is kind of a flair player. Whereas Diomande, from all the YouTube videos and the wee flicks that we've seen for him so far, looks like he might be a bit more a kind of flair about him. And for him to pick up that kind of deep 10 role when Cantwell and Silva are quite close to each other, that's probably an area he's probably trying to work on. And you're right, now that the signing of him kind of seems to make sense. Was I right in something there? Did I say something that actually made sense?
No, I know what you mean. Because especially see if you watch it tomorrow night, when you see the Ross County keeper having the ball, Cantwell and the striker are right up at the edge of the box, basically a 4-4-2 out of possession. They're right up there. And he is playing very, very close. They've got a really nice relationship already. I don't know how, 150 minutes or something they've played together. But you can see that sort of one-touch combinations that you desperately need to break down these teams. They look like they've got it. And I absolutely, if Cantwell is up there as well, then it opens up a little bit of space in the middle of the pitch for somebody to get forwards. I know people absolutely won't entertain it right now, but it would, for me, be really, really interesting based on, I guess, not really what we've seen, but just based on how I think they could work together. I think it'd be quite interesting to see Raskin and Diomande as that deeper midfield, because we're less reliant on maybe having someone who can just be a defensive midfielder. I think Raskin can take the ball and he can pass it. He's passing. People say his passing is a little erratic sometimes, and I think that's fair. They say it with Ridvan as well, but what I think it is they're playing with risk. They're trying to make passes that skip out a player. It's a little bit more risky than just sort of passing between the centre halves, etc. So I'm kind of okay with that, provided it's not ridiculous passes that put us in danger. So having Raskin and Diomande in there as a sort of double pivot in the defensive midfield, I think could be quite interesting, with Raskin sitting as a deeper player. But given where we are right now, I think it's clear Lundstrom is going to be in, and he's going to be playing for the rest of the season and probably beyond if they can get a deal done. So it's not something that I can particularly see happening right now, but it would be quite interesting to see it even for a couple of games to try it out.
Yeah, even if you see it maybe in a cup game or something along the lines of that, where you could see him get experimenting a little bit more with combinations of players. Once we have a kind of fully fit team back, I think Raskin's he does seem to really be struggling to find form and getting back to full fitness right now, and he is one that's coming for a bit of criticism because, again, impatient Rangers fans, as I am as well. I'm not pointing fingers here. I'm more pointing fingers at myself. That you're like, you expect more from him, you expect more to be coming from him, and it's not really been happening. And Lundstrom, you're spot on. He's the main guy there right now, and I think it's going to be like that going to next season. You expect Lundstrom to be offered a new contract?
I think so. If we're being serious about 100% full focus on the player trading model, then he probably shouldn't be. But I just think where we are right now, in terms of the environment, in terms of the manager coming in, lots of players that are over 30 that will be leaving, then I think it makes sense to just have that little bit more continuity there. If you think Jack, Barisic, Roof, Balogun even all going, it only really leaves Tavernier, Goldson, Butland, I guess, as the sort of main experienced players.
Senior, yeah.
So I think maybe just keeping them around I wouldn't be giving him a 3-year contract or anything because he's getting to 30, and I don't think on those type of wages that he'll be looking for. I wouldn't be doing anything like that, but maybe 2 years and an option or something, and see how he goes. I think that makes sense in this circumstance. But moving forward, everything we know about Coppin and Clement and the way that the club wants to go, I think big contracts for players that are 30 and above will be a thing of the past, particularly ones, and Lundstrom's not really in this category, but pretty much all the other ones are, particularly ones that have had injury troubles as well.
Yeah, Lundstrom's one that I think has reacted well to the change in manager. He seems to be enjoying the role that he's been asked to do under Clement. I think he's obviously whatever happened with Bale, it didn't sit well with Lundstrom, and he kind of lost his form, and he showed quite a lot of frustration in his time, I found, on the pitch under Bale, and he seems like one that's kind of taken to the new manager, and the manager's very much taken to him. But last time we were on as well, we mentioned about small tweaks that the manager would maybe need to make in order to get the best out of the players that were already there.
Mm-hmm.
If you think that has worked, who's the players that you think is not worked wonders, but ones that you've thought to yourself, that's Clement that's doing that? And you can't just say Tav, by the way, because Tav has been really good, and I know you're a Tav fanboy. We'll come to Tav in here.
That's an interesting one. So obviously with the huge amount of rotation, can't really say McCausland either because he had 0 impact really before that. Probably go with Ridvan. And then I guess Sterling. I think Sterling has been quite good moving into that midfield position. His fullback appearances, particularly at right back, actually, the couple of times he played right back were not great. He was decent at left back a couple of times, I think, when he filled in. I feel like there was a game, wasn't there, Barisic was injured or suspended, I think he played. I can't think what one it was off the top of my head.
No, I can't mind.
Was it Betis? Can't remember. But I'll probably say Ridvan. I think I've been a big fan of Ridvan ever since we were linked with him, and I was looking at him. I thought that's someone that would be really impressive for us. It would change the way that we attack as far as fullbacks are concerned. Everybody knows, we don't need to go over it, how good Barisic is when he gets the ball in the corner of the box and is pinging across, and everybody knows it. It's all the other stuff I think that could be improved. And again, that doesn't mean he's awful at some of that stuff. It's just could be improved. And I think when Ridvan came in, I was expecting him to be probably what he is now. But circumstances, I think John Suter said today as well, he was 21, couldn't speak the language. Physically wasn't that well developed. It really took him a year to get going. That injury didn't help as well. So I think we're now seeing that now. With him having a run in the team, who knows if he'd have got the run under Van Bronckhorst? He was just getting it, wasn't he, before he got injured? Yeah. I think he got a couple of starts there, and Beale played him towards the end of last season. If he'd have got that run from the summer, he might have done this anyway. We don't know, but going with what we know just now, you look at it and you think 28th of December or whatever it was, quite a lot of people were happy for him to go. I think I tweeted saying we absolutely should not be losing money on Ridvan, even if he's going right now, whenever that was, like the 28th of December, and there was not a lot of people agreeing. Whereas I think now you'll be looking at it and you think in the summer, if he's playing the way he is, then you're asking double your money probably, minimum right now. So I think that testament to the player, testament to the manager for putting him in and playing him. But I think the benefits that we get from that are really, really good. And I think you've seen some of that in the last couple of games. I think with his relationship with Matondo, with his relationship with Cortez, with how he even just links in the middle with the midfielders, Lawrence and Lundstrom, etc., I think has been really interesting. So I would say Sterling for, I guess, the surprise factor of how well he did when he came into centre midfield, but one that's for me the standout, I think I would have to say it's probably Ridvan.
Yeah, I think Ridvan has been impressive. I think once it's more. I think it's more the style of Barisic that frustrates people more than anything, and the kind of knife edge that his confidence hangs on. Because if he's poor and he knows he's playing poor, he just disappears really into himself, and it becomes very frustrating to watch as a fan. I think he's got a cracking left foot on him. I do. I think some of his crosses are spectacular, but I'm not 100% sure that's what Clement's after either. And I'm thinking he's more.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I think we also focus on like the attacking side of it, and we say, "Oh, Barisic can do this, and Ridvan can do this." I feel like Ridvan is much more aggressive a defender, which is ridiculous when you think about the size difference as
Size
well.
of
But
him.
says
Short man
stays,
syndrome, though, isn't it?
aye,
Short
I
man
know,
syndrome.
angry
Yeah,
man. But
yeah.
he stays like touch tight. There's even games against Aberdeen. He maybe wasn't winning the header, but he was like needling the defender and like jumping into him and sort of putting them off balance. He's quite active when he's defending as well. You see him sliding to kick the ball out of play against Aberdeen down the touchline, quite aggressive with it. Barisic, I always feel, is just too timid. Everybody's got that picture in their head of a winger running at Barisic and he's sort of backpedaling, looking back the way. You just see it
Yeah,
in your head. He's doing it all the time.
yeah.
He just always seems, like you said, on a knife edge of confidence, but I think he plays like that sometimes as well. He's never going to make the sort of passes into the midfield that Ridvan does. He's not as comfortable on his right foot, which just limits him completely because the opposition can just press him from that side and he's nowhere to go. So he has to go back the way. So I think there's more than just the attacking side of it. Barisic is going to get more assists than Ridvan does in a season. I think that's factual. But the quality, I guess, that it brings, Ridvan getting to the byline and cutting back for someone to have a shot and then someone else scores, for example, or his ability to take men out of play when he's passing the ball forwards to then let someone else create chances, I think is something that maybe isn't as obvious as just a big cross into the box and somebody to score. But I do think it's got benefits going forwards and defensively as well.
When Ridvan was linked to go away or to move on in the winter, I'm not going to say I was disappointed. I was more concerned that we weren't going to maybe bring anybody else in, and it was all going to depend on who we brought in because I wouldn't have full confidence in
Yeah,
Barisic. Barisic has been a great servant to this club. He has. He's been
a
great for
million
us. He
pounds.
really
Yeah,
has. Yeah, he's done. He's paid us back no end. There's zero doubt about it. But now you're right. If Ridvan continues the way he's on, you're going to be talking a good bit of dollar for him in the summer if the offers do come for him. So,
definitely.
since we're about halfway through what we plan to be on, mate, I'm going to. This is your payment you're getting right now, Adam. I'm going to let you speak about Tavernier. James Tavernier, there is no doubt in my mind, has improved under Clement. I think there is a stark difference from what we were seeing under Beale to what we're seeing under Clement. I think Tav was almost trying to do too much under Beale in terms of trying to carry the team when blatantly not many people knew what anybody was doing, including the manager. Sorry for a bit of Beale bashing there, but I think it's true.
Yep.
And I heard you earlier on today on the daily update on Heart and Hand, and you were discussing about the transitions in terms of defending and where Tavernier's picking up positions when we're in full attack mode, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yep.
He's very much inside, like a right-sided defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
And he obviously, when he's attacking, he's usually hitting the byline, cutting inside, whatever he's doing. I didn't think there was more to come from Tavernier, if that makes sense. But now under Clement, I'm going, there is wee glimmers there of the Tavernier of old. The
Yeah.
floor is yours, Adam. The floor is yours.
So it's interesting because there's less, I guess, highlights or highlight reel things happening.
Mm-hmm.
He's not pinging crosses in to the box. Set pieces have improved, but I feel like they've probably improved more with Ridvan taking his on his side.
And swinging corners as well. It's a good thing to see.
He's been really, really good on those. Tavernier's corners have probably been as disappointing. I think people say they're disappointing all the time. They haven't been a marked difference on it. I would say it's on the left hand side that we've seen a bit more there. But yeah, you're right. The role has changed a little bit. He's also 32
Yeah.
as well. So I think it's about time the role changed. We've seen it with Kyle Walker rampaging up and down the wing for Man City, and then Guardiola changed them a couple of years ago to be effectively a third central defender at times. You just have to adapt. I think he doesn't look like he's lost any of his pace. I always think the last two seasons, it's been generally said around about August, September time, oh, his fitness is way off. I think
Knackered. Yeah.
maybe it just takes a bit longer now, given how old he's getting, the amount of minutes that he's got on the miles that he's got on the clock. Maybe it just takes a bit longer to get going. I don't know, but I don't know if it's a coincidence that 2 years in a row he started to improve the further the season got on. So maybe it just takes a bit of time to get in his groove. I think the relationship with McCausland is a big thing as well, because we've seen the relationship that he had with Candias way back, and then ever since then, we stopped playing wingers for a couple of years, but we played maybe a number 10 wider on that side, and it'd be Hadji, it'd be Roof, it'd be Aribo, Arfield, Lawrence. I think everybody's had a shot there pretty much. So that does impact you, I guess. in terms of how you play. But I think what McCausland and him are doing is they benefit each other at the minute. Tavernier can go on the outside, absolutely, but McCausland can cut in, vice versa. McCausland is decent on the ball. Decision making is certainly improving, so he can then help in there as well. But yeah, the big thing I think, like you mentioned, is this out of possession thing. And again, we've heard Suter saying today, Goldson saying the other day about how big they are on these transitions and guarding against transitions. And if you watch, maybe if people haven't picked up on this yet, if you watch tomorrow night, if we've got the ball on the left hand side, if it's Cortez or Matondo or Ridvan high up on the left hand side, Tavernier is pretty much in the middle, quite far up, I would say, in the number 10 position at points. But he's very, very central. And I noticed against Livingston, because the ball fell to him at the edge of the box and he had a shot, and I was like, oh, normally you see him coming into the box at the back post, or you can see him in there sometimes, but there was a few times that happened. And then the interesting thing was when Tavernier and McCausland had it on the other side, Ridvan was doing the same. So he basically a mirror image. He was coming in very, very central as well. And I was speaking to Joshua Barry about it at the game, on Aberdeen game. It was speaking to him about it, and he was like, I think it's the guard against transition, so guard against counter attacks, basically, because if you've got one fullback in the middle and you've got a couple of others out of possession, you've got the two centre backs back, and there's a break, then the fullback can either attack the ball and pick it up and keep things going, or if there's a breakaway, then they've got less room, they've got less space to come back the way, because they just need to run a straight line back. So they're not out wide, they're not out of the game and having to come back in. They're literally right in the middle of the pitch and they can help there. So I think that's that aggressiveness out of possession that Clement is talking about, getting the ball back, but if you don't get the ball back, making sure you're positioned so that you guard against the counter attack. And I think that's really interesting with both fullbacks at the minute. There are a lot less crosses. I think that's probably with Ridvan coming in, probably with Sima playing out there, probably with McCausland. They are not crossers of the ball in a way that Candeas, Barisic, even Tavernier are. So there's a lot less crosses. Tavernier is still contributing with crosses, but yeah, it's much more of I would say, a supporting role, in terms of he arrives into the play as a fullback now to provide a wee bit of a bit of leeway or a bit of support, rather than being the guy who is the ball's been worked in a combination to get him free on the byline to the ball into the box. I'd say it's a bit more combined, and I think everybody's pulling their weight a little bit more, which is exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's still work needing to be done, and I'm going to use tactics words here. Transitions, in terms of when we win the ball high. I think we waste a lot of chances when we do win the ball high. I think that's something that's going to come in time. Also, when we get a kind of out and out striker that's going to be ours for a long period of time, I think we'll do better in that area. But what it is interesting, I did notice, I was like, Tav's very central there. Like, he has moved in quite a little bit, and look, if it's going to guard against counters, then by all means, I'm absolutely for it. That was your payment, by the way. You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Waxing lyrical.
Yeah, waxing lyrical about Tav. We'll come on to the new signings. Silva, I know he's not technically a signing, but he's going to have a massive impact on the rest of the season. I don't think there's any great doubt about it, especially with the partnership previously mentioned that he seems to be building with Cantwell, which is bringing also the best out in him. He seems like your kind of player, Silva. Correct me if I'm wrong. He does seem like your kind of player. What's been your initial thoughts on him? Are you excited to see more as well?
Definitely excited to see more. I like him. I think this obsession that we've got with looking at Wikipedia and just writing a player off based on the fact they've not scored goals is just wild. I don't know. I don't get it. Particularly, I think when you look at the context of how horrendous Wolves have been for a couple of years, up until maybe the last couple of months or so. A young player playing on that team isn't going to get lots of opportunities. And again, just sort of ignoring the fact that he played in Anderlecht and PSV teams who are, if not the same level as us, sort of facing the same challenges that we face in terms of domestic leagues. And he got 16 goals and 5 assists last year. For a player who was 20 last summer, like the summer before last, I think, when he joined there, I think there needs to be a wee bit of context there to see actually this guy might be better than the absolute diddy you think he is. So I think that's the thing. I think it all comes down to what we need or what we want. And I think the issue that we had all through January with Silva was people just assuming he wouldn't score goals because he hasn't scored goals at Wolves. And I think I tweeted as well, watching him at Hibs, I was like, he's not going to get 20 goals in the next 6 months or whatever. I don't think he is that type of player yet. But it doesn't mean he can't be, and it doesn't mean he can't contribute. And I think based on, I guess, what we needed someone to sort of take up the slack from Danilo. I guess in terms of his ability out of the box, and we need somebody to be available in the box to score as well. I think he's doing okay. The 2 goals that he's got are the poacheriest goals I think we've ever seen, which is ironic given given everything that's happened there. So if he continues in that trajectory and he hits this mythical 10 goals that he must have had to score to be classed as a centre forward by the summer, then happy days. But I think we're seeing a lot of other things from him. He does a lot of good work in the channels. He'll run all his shots, etc. that he gets. It's balls coming over, and he's taking them on the right or taking them on the left, the way that Morelos did, and sort of barreling into the box. I do need to see a bit more, I think, in terms of his actual shooting. I think there's been a couple of, like, the finish the other night was a really, really good finish. I thought when he spun and took it. He's had a couple of potential great goals. I think the one against Aberdeen where he sort of bends it with the outside his right foot in the first half, and then the one against Livingston where he's sort of doing that fall and volley type thing. He's had a couple that could have been fantastic goals, but I would like to see him just within the box, just that movement, going near post to get a flick on for a header, or having a great shot from 12 yards out or whatever that just goes right in the ball. I'd like to see some of those as well to give me a bit of confidence that he's where he's going to be. But I'm not too concerned about him. It's just, I guess, one of these things when he's only going to be here for 3 or 4 months. How involved do you really get, I guess, and how, because you can't really say he's going to be this type of player, because if he goes away in the summer, we don't care what type of player he's going to be. Like, so it's one of those things you're like, doing okay just now. If he gets 10 goals or so, it's going to help us along in the journey. If he creates, like we've seen with, I guess, Matondo and Cantwell stepping up to the plate and bringing goals and assists, hopefully Cortez doing the same as well. If he's part of that story and part of that contribution overall, then I think that's great, and that's all we need for just now. We desperately need to score, I would say, another. At this stage of the season, in terms of the league, I think we probably needed and should have scored another 10 goals or so, and we'd have been in a position that I think is very, very strong. So if we've got someone that can give us that extra 10 goals in it's not the second half of the season, but the second 40% or whatever it is now, then that would be absolutely ideal.
Yeah, and you took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, but in terms of Silva, if he brings the best out and players around him, hence Cantwell, we're seeing an improvement in Cantwell. I don't think it's but obviously I think there'll be a bit of it with Cantwell getting fully on board with Clement's style and philosophy that he wants for him, the role that he wants for him, maybe getting a wee kick up the arse that he needed. But it's back with Clement taking him off, whatever, and saying, I don't want fancy football, I want you to win football games, that kind of thing. But the connection with Silva is something that I think's been quite noticeable quite quickly. You're like, they're on the same page. Do you know what I mean? They are very much on the same page.
It should work in theory. Clever players should play together, and I think that's always the thing that people maybe not misjudge. That's the wrong thing, but people maybe don't think about is, you remember those bad years under Caixinha or Murty or whatever, and I'd be out there banging the drum of Tavernier saying, put him around better players and you'll see something, like you'll see a good chance. I guess you can never really tell who those players are that are going to shine, but I think when you look at the way that Cantwell, again, treated as a bit much, but the way that he's been asked to play at times this year, I mean, making Todd Cantwell cover runners at right central midfield is wild. In certain games, fair enough, but it was never really going to work. Then equally, Clement putting him out on wide right didn't really work. I think we were all screaming for McCausland to be playing, or at least 2 wingers to be playing. Putting him in his position that he's the most comfortable with. I think I said this today on the update as well. He's one of those players that, like it or lump it, he's going to need to feel loved, and he's going to need to feel like he's one of the main men in the team. So you either spend that time drilling into him that he needs to do this and need to do that, and you might get a bit of pushback, or you put him in the position that is his best position, he thinks his best position, and then you start to build him up that way and say, well, you could do this or you could do that. So I think that's something that we're seeing there. The goals that he scored, I thought, actually, when he came on, I don't know if many people have mentioned it, but I thought when he came on Saturday, he was absolutely unreal. He looked like, I don't know, he just looked like he was playing on 2 times speed. Like, he just for the goal, getting to the byline and chipping that ball over, he just looked everywhere. Considering the manager said he had a knock, and that's why he didn't really start. I think it was one of those situations where Diamandi had come on, had played in his position, and Cantwell was coming on and going, "Well, I'll show you whose position that actually is," and he played for whatever that was, half an hour or so, like a man possessed. I thought he was really really impressive for that 30 minutes or so.
On our post match, I gave two man of the matches, one for the first half and one for the second. Cortez got it in the first and Cantwell got it in the second, because I
Yeah,
thought he kind of almost gave the game a bit of spark, because
yeah,
it was a tough watch. Let's not lie, it was a tough watch. But when he came on, I was like, he's got a point to prove. He's like, it's like you could see the
yeah.
buzz about him. So I thought he was great when he came on. We spoke a wee bit about Diamandi, so I'll leave him there. We spoke about him earlier and what we probably expect from him and where we expect him to make an impact on the team. Cortez, I know we've only seen brief bits of him. He's made a good first impression.
He definitely has. He looks absolutely gallus, I think, is the thing I would say. Again, you think how young he is. He's what,
Yeah.
20, I don't know when he's 20, 21, but he's very, very young, but he looks physically built. I was actually surprised watching some of his games for Millonarios and even Colombia in the sort of younger age groups. It never quite hit me how tall he was. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
pretty big,
He's a big
um,
lad.
and he's a big boy for his age. Couple of decent, fun, spectacular substitute appearances, but yeah, I thought that's what we should be doing against Ayr United. And we've made some of these games more difficult than they need to be in the past by um, not expecting the players to come and just turn up. He could be doing what he did against that right back for 45 minutes in most games. Really, I think if that's the benchmark we need for these players coming in. But I thought it was really impressive. I just like how simplistic it was. Like we've had Ryan Kent out there playing as a not a winger, but playing as a number 10 out wide and cutting back and nice little interchanges. We've had Sima out there, who again doesn't play it as a left winger. He plays it more as like a kind of inside forward, if you like, who's getting in the box. He's not really beating his man, etc. Matondo can beat his man 1 minute and then fall over the ball the next minute. He's maybe the most similar, I think, in terms of how direct he is, but he's just so inconsistent with it,
Yeah.
like from movement to movement. Never mind even from game to game. But Cortez just looked like, yeah, just going to shape you up and beat you every time. I'll go out, I'll go inside, I'll go outside. But my main aim right now is beating you and get to the byline, which I think is fucking brilliant. Like, that's exactly what you want from a winger. That's just what you're looking for. Somebody who'll get you excited and stand you up and say, he's got the ball, you know he's going to beat his man and he's going to make something happen. And I think we've seen with the goal as well. It's his tenacity to go and get the ball, his tenacity to win it back, get to the byline, something will happen. I say that all the time. These crosses that Barisic and Tavernier put in all the time are great, and you might get a goal every 10 times. See if the players go to the byline in the way that Ridvan and Matondo even does, and Cortez is going to do just now. If you go to the byline and you cut that ball back, you're cutting it back to the centre of the pitch for a defence that does not know what's happening, doesn't know whether you're going to hit it into the back post, cut it back to this player, cut it back to that player. The amount of missed opportunities we've had from cutbacks and the goal like Barisic scored at the weekend is just testament to that. When's the last time he scored from open play? I mean, St Johnson last
The,
year in the
the,
cup.
was that the right footed shot? The one we hit his right foot? Was that the last time he scored for open play? Remember he hit one with his right,
Oh,
he
yeah.
hit himself with his right boot? I can't remember who that was against. I remember that though.
But he's had what, 5 from open play probably in
Yeah.
6 years, 4 or 5. That's, to me, that's what we need from one of the wingers to do. Happy with McCausland on the other side, cutting inside and being creative and linking up and doing those nice things over there. But we need somebody on that side that will just, if something hasn't worked, give him the ball, let him battle that fullback and whip it into the box for a cutback. I think is great. He looks like he's going to be that. Obviously, we need to be careful, cautious, all those boring things, because he's not had a lot of football. He is still very young. He's probably going to be erratic. But yeah, if he continues that 45 minutes there, then whatever the fee is, there was rumours of what, 4 million or so in terms of the buy fee. That'd be a steal. And I wonder whether his insurance policy for Sima, because we don't know what will happen with him in terms of the summer. He'll have 12 months left on his deal at Brighton. Will they be looking for their £8 million back? If they are, I can't see that happening for us. But if they're looking for a little bit less, maybe with a high sell-on fee or something like that, then possibly we could see Sima on one side and Cortez on the other, which I think would be really really interesting to see. So yeah, we'll wait and see how that goes. But no, I'm really impressed. I love he's not necessarily an old fashioned winger in the sense of like a Giggs or whatever, but just the directness that he's got about him, and the fact that he can go on both sides, I think is great.
Yeah, very good. And I think the point that you make about the crosses as well, getting to the byline and crossing, and you're playing the cross behind the defence, if that makes
Yep.
sense. You're putting it into the middle of the box where they don't know. If Barisic has got it deep and Tav's got it deep and they whip it in, they know exactly what's about to happen. We need to win a header here, lads. Everybody knows that. We need to win a header here. Whereas the cutback just causes a bit of chaos, and
I
that's where
think
I think Cantwell will do really well if we continue to do something like that. Cantwell's going to pick up spaces there. He's probably going to get goals from there. And I think with the way Silva works as well, with him dropping deep, I think that'll work.
what we've seen a lot during the 55 season, I bang on about this so many times, is the amount of 1-2s that we've seen with Arfield, Hadji, Roof, those sort of give and goes and somebody busting through to score. I think Hadji got a few, Arfield got a few of them as well. Through the middle of the box is great, but it's so compact and there's so many defenders in there as well. If you can stretch them and get that ball through for somebody to run onto, then you're through and it's happy days. These are the goals that Celtic scored 50, 100 of probably in the last 2.5 years under Postecoglou. Those are the goals that are key to breaking down teams, in my opinion, as well as some of those other ones. So yeah, if we can add those into our repertoire as well, then happy days.
Against these block defences, you want to be organised, you want to be unpredictable, and you want to have some difference in the terms of the players that you're going to have on the park to cause that chaos for the defence. And I think that's what Clement's trying to build. Anyway, before we go any further, I'll ask you, who's been the most improved? Would you say it is still Ridvan?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And is there anyone that's not improved that you thought might?
Well, that's an interesting one. Do you know? Probably not. To be honest, I'm trying to think. Like, obviously, if I could, can I use Lammers?
Yeah, mate. I'm all for beating up Lammers, mate. I'm all for it.
He showed nothing at all.
Nothing
of a change under Clement. It was still the same type of player. There. I would probably have to go with him just because there's nothing else I can think about. Cantwell's improved rapidly. Dessers. I think Dessers, that was a little streak that he went on there for the tail end of the season and maybe a couple of games this season, tail end of the year and a couple of games this year. But even just his all-round play, I think, is looking pretty good. Lundstrom, great. Raskin would be a candidate, but I'm not judging Raskin on 250 minutes of football in 3.5 months. I think he wasn't that great before it anyway. Yeah, I would say that even the centre halves, I think, are doing okay. Yeah, I'll probably just have to go with Lammers just based on the fact there's nobody else.
And he's a diddy, yeah. So I'm absolutely all for that. Before I let you go here, mate, obviously there's quite a big game happening tomorrow night, and it's not often you say that it is a big game against Ross County, but it very much is, because it puts us in a position that I don't really think many of us can believe that we've got the opportunity to do so, to completely cut the gap, to get back on level points. What are your thoughts ahead of the game? I think we are going to be saying it's a massive game pretty much for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think big 3 points. It's funny that every single game is the biggest game ever, and it's a big 3 points that's must win. When is a Rangers game ever not been must win? A friendly fucking must win. Like, I find that's so funny. But yeah, I guess for me, I think the game last week had more significance on it. I think because we do struggle against Aberdeen. We have done twice already this season. Struggled against them in the league, particularly the way that game went in terms of how late it was that we managed to get that breakthrough. I think that was a big win psychologically. I think not necessarily because we took advantage or anything like that, but just to win a really difficult game. I think so. In theory, this week Ross County are minging without being too kind about it. I think they've got 2 wins since the end of August in the league or in all competitions. So we really should be going out, you would think, and taking 4 or 5 off them. You would think if a team that's high in confidence and is keen to do that, then I think that should be fine. But to be honest, anyone at the minute, keep the pressure on, I think is absolutely fine. The gap that we've clawed back for me is a psychological boost enough, rather than just a goal or two that might mean your name is above the other team's name in the league for however long it is. So winning the game is the first thing. But I just think some of the things that we've seen, the manager was not happy with the performance at the weekend. I don't think many people really were. So he said that again today, didn't he, in the press conference, that he wasn't delighted about it. So I guess we'll see the man management and the reaction that we might get tomorrow night. Team selection, I think, will be quite interesting as well, because I think everybody's expecting Jack and Lawrence have done a kind of shot each over the last couple of weeks. So I think with Jack being rested again for tomorrow night, or being preserved for the weekend, people are probably thinking that Lawrence might come in next to Lundstrom, but it could also be Diomande coming in there as his first start. So that one be quite interesting. Will Cortez start again, or will he go with Matondo? Silva and Dessers, not sure on there. I think everything else probably picks itself, but yeah, it's just quite interesting to just be going and talking about the football and just understanding that this player might be better in this game and that player's doing quite well, that this player's coming back. That's quite interesting. Couple of goals, a clean sheet, and it's happy days, hopefully.
That's all you want, mate. That is all you want. So before you go, what's your score prediction for tomorrow night?
And saying all of that, I'm going to go for whatever it is that needs us to get to the top of the table. So that's 3-0, I think, isn't it? So I'll go 3-0.
Happy days, yeah. I'm going 3-0 as well. Very much the same, and I'm very much looking forward to it. As I say, it's not often that you get a real buzz about going to Ibrox to play Ross County, of all people, but I can't wait to get to Ibrox tomorrow night. That'll do us for tonight on Club Extra. Adam, always a pleasure to have you on. My pestering worked, mate. You agreed to come on. I'm very happy about it. No, honestly, mate, an absolute pleasure, and I'll catch up with you soon.
Cheers, Scott.
So we will be back tomorrow after the game. I hope your team very much wins, and I hope you see a very happy, well, one face definitely. Ali might be with me tomorrow after the match, as we'll bring you a reaction. Thank you again to Adam for coming on, and we'll speak to you next time. We are Club at 22, the Rangers podcast. Cheers, everybody.